Man, after watching that wild matchup between the Dolphins and the Bills, I could not help but sit back and think just how blessed we are to have Lamar Jackson running the show for the Ravens. Seeing how chaotic things looked for Miami's quarterback situation only makes you appreciate even more what Lamar brings to Baltimore every single week. But while that thought had me smiling, there is also this cloud hanging over the defense right now, and that cloud is the health of Nate Wiggins. Wiggins has been a huge piece of this secondary since stepping into the league. In that Browns game, he played lights out, flying around the field, locking down receivers, and even coming up with a big interception that nearly went the distance. He came so close to turning it into a pick six, and the whole stadium could feel that energy. But after that play and the celebration that followed, things started to look a little off. He was limping, and not just in a small way. Teammates jumped on him in excitement, but that pileup may have aggravated something, because he was hobbling the rest of the night. Yes, he finished the game, which at first gave some hope that it was nothing major, but anyone watching closely could see he wasn't moving the same way he usually does. Fast forward to practice the next day, and there was no sign of Nate Wiggins on the field. The team listed it as a groin injury, and that word immediately raised alarms. When Coach John Harbaugh was asked about it, he tried to keep the optimism going, saying it was nothing long-term or season-ending. That is the positive side, no doubt. But the way Harbaugh phrased it gave a lot of fans pause. Normally, when a player is fine, Harbaugh comes out confident, almost casual, saying he'll be out there tomorrow. This time, though, it was hopefully he can practice tomorrow. And you know how it is. When you hear hopefully, that does not exactly scream confidence. This situation matters so much because Nate Wiggins is not just another player on this roster. He is the starting outside corner, the guy who helps anchor everything that defense wants to do. Last season, he might have started slow with limited snaps, but once he was trusted with that starting job, he never looked back. He played like a seasoned vet, shutting down top targets, making plays on the ball, and giving the Ravens that aggressive edge on the perimeter. This year, the expectation was for him to take another big leap. That is why this injury, no matter how minor it may seem, feels so concerning. Baltimore has depth at corner, no doubt about that. Marlon Humphrey is still around, and even though he got banged up in the Browns game, he was already back at practice, which is a great sign. There is also Jaire Alexander, who could be back in the lineup after resting last week. Add in Chidobe Awuzie, rookie TJ Tampa, and some of the younger guys like Reuben Lowry and Kean Mitchell, and you see that this defense has plenty of options. But let's be real. As nice as depth is, when you lose a cornerstone starter, the unit just does not feel the same. And here is the timing issue. The Ravens are preparing for a massive test against the Detroit Lions. That Lions offense is loaded with weapons, from Amon-Ra St. Brown catching everything in sight to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery pounding away in the backfield. Jared Goff may not be the most mobile quarterback, but he can pick apart a secondary if he is given time and space. That makes Nate Wiggins' availability even more important. His presence allows Baltimore to trust its outside coverage and get more creative with blitzes and matchups. Without him, the Ravens could still survive with their depth, but the margin for error shrinks big time. Now, some fans have started to wonder if Wiggins was already a little banged up even before that awkward celebration against the Browns. When he grabbed that interception, he looked a step slower than usual while returning it, almost as if he was not hitting top gear. Sure, part of it was the angle of the offensive lineman chasing him down, but for someone with his speed, that play raised a couple of eyebrows. Add the fact that he reportedly added some muscle in the offseason, and maybe the combination of extra weight and a tweak in the groin area was enough to slow him down. When you combine that with what Lamar Jackson looked like in the same game, the concerns multiply. Lamar didn't seem like himself either. He was hesitant to run early on, and that is always a red flag when it comes to Lamar, because his legs are such a dangerous part of his game. He did have one nice keeper where he pulled the ball and took off, showing he can still burst when needed, but there is no denying he looked a little off at times. Maybe it was soreness from the Bills game, when he took a nasty shot from Ed Oliver that left him cramping. Maybe it was just part of the game plan. Whatever the reason, Ravens fans were definitely watching closely, hoping their franchise quarterback is not dealing with anything more serious. And then you add Derrick Henry into this conversation. Ravens fans love seeing him bulldoze defenders and keep drives alive, but back-to-back games with fumbles? That is uncharacteristic. Henry is known for power, speed, and durability, not coughing up the ball. Sure, both fumbles came on punch-outs, which means defenders made great plays, but it still rattles you when a guy of his reputation suddenly has butterfingers. Against the Browns, his production dipped too, which some chalk up to Cleveland's strong defensive front. Historically, Henry has struggled against them compared to other teams, so maybe that was expected. But the fumbles? That is where the nerves kick in, because ball security is everything in games as tight as the ones the Ravens are playing. All of this puts Baltimore in an interesting spot heading into Detroit. The roster is strong. The depth is there. But little cracks, Wiggins' groin, Lamar's soreness, Henry's fumbles, these things can snowball if not addressed. The Lions are not a team that will forgive mistakes. They can rack up points quickly, and if Baltimore is not sharp, Detroit could flip the script fast. That is why everyone is watching practice reports so closely, waiting to see if number 2 steps back onto the field. Seeing Wiggins suited up and moving fluidly would ease a lot of nerves. But if he is sidelined, then the coaching staff will need to lean hard on that depth and trust the scheme to carry them through. Ravens fans have been riding a wave of mixed emotions these past few weeks. On one hand, the team showed resilience bouncing back from the tough loss to Buffalo by putting together a dominant performance against the Browns. On the other hand, the frustrations that have followed this team for years continue to creep back into the conversation, and a lot of that has to do with head coach John Harbaugh. There is this ongoing sentiment in parts of the fan base that no matter how much talent Baltimore has, no matter how strong the roster looks on paper, the team always finds itself in the same familiar storylines. Big leads built early, momentum captured, only for the game plan to go conservative. The defense softens up, and the opponent claws their way back into it. Fans are exhausted from seeing it repeat over and over. One of the questions making the rounds lately is simple. What exactly is Harbaugh's role at this point? The roster has been carefully built by the front office, with general manager Eric DeCosta finding ways to keep the talent pool strong on both sides of the ball. Coordinators have come and gone, philosophies have shifted, and players have turned over. But through it all, Harbaugh remains the constant. For many, that is a sign of stability and leadership. For others, it feels like a stubborn attachment that is preventing the team from maximizing its potential. Some fans point to Steve Bisciotti, the owner, as the only one who can make a real change at the top. The idea being that unless Bisciotti himself decides to move on, Harbaugh will always have that seat no matter how many times Baltimore lets leads slip away. And honestly, you can understand both sides of the debate. Harbaugh has delivered a Super Bowl title, multiple playoff runs, and a reputation around the league as one of the toughest, most consistent coaches in football. At the same time, those championship days feel further and further away, and with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson in his prime, the urgency is sky high. Every season that passes without a deep playoff run feels like a wasted opportunity. Fans have been saying it for years. Lamar is not going to be 27 forever. His window as the most dynamic player in football will not last forever. And if Harbaugh's tendencies are holding the team back, then the organization risks looking back with regret when this era is over. That frustration is amplified when you watch games like the one against the Browns. Baltimore was in complete control, up by multiple scores, and the game felt all but over. But fans could not shake the fear that the defense might soften, the offense might slow down, and that the door would open for a comeback. This time, thankfully, the Ravens kept their foot on the gas and finished strong. It felt like a statement not only to Cleveland but to their own supporters. We hear you. We are not going to collapse this time. Whether that mindset sticks as the season rolls on remains to be seen, especially with high-powered offenses like Detroit and Kansas City on the horizon. When you mix that uncertainty with the health questions around Nate Wiggins, Jaire Alexander, and even Lamar's level of comfort, it creates this sense of cautious optimism. Baltimore has the tools, but will they use them the right way? Jaire's case is another interesting one. He looked rusty when he was out there earlier in the season, and that makes sense considering he missed a big chunk of practice time in the summer. He is too talented and too experienced to let one rough outing define him. But with the cornerback room dealing with bumps and bruises, his presence is critical. The Ravens need him to look like the version of Jaire who locks up top receivers and brings that physical energy, not the version who looks a step behind. As for Lamar, his health is always going to be the elephant in the room. Anytime he hesitates to run or looks even slightly off rhythm, speculation starts immediately. The quarterback position is brutal, and defenders always seem to hit him harder than they do others, almost as if they know those chances are rare and they want to make the most of them. It is part of what makes Lamar so special, that he continues to stand tall despite all of that. But it is also what makes fans nervous. Watching him against Buffalo take those shots, and then hearing about cramps had people on edge. Against Cleveland, he seemed sore, maybe cautious, but not broken. Still, the fear lingers. The Ravens need Lamar at 100% to take down the Lions and Chiefs. Anything less, and the challenge grows tenfold. On top of that, Derrick Henry's recent fumbles continue to sit in the back of everyone's minds. He is still Derrick Henry, still bulldozing through tacklers, still demanding respect every time he lines up in the backfield. But 2 games in a row coughing up the ball is the kind of thing that gives coaches gray hairs. It is not just about the turnover itself. It is about the message it sends. Defenses now know if they attack that ball aggressively, they might have a chance. That changes the way teams pursue him. Henry has to tighten up, because while you can chalk it up to good defensive plays, those moments swing games. In a league where every possession matters, fumbling can undo all the good work of an otherwise dominant performance. And yet, despite all the concerns, this Ravens team still feels like one of the most dangerous in football. The offense has weapons everywhere, from Zay Flowers stretching defenses to Mark Andrews waiting to reassert himself as a go-to target. The defense has playmakers on every level, and if Wiggins and Humphrey are both healthy, that secondary has the potential to be suffocating. The biggest question is whether they can put it all together consistently, week after week, and not let the same old patterns creep back in. That is what makes the upcoming game against Detroit feel so massive. It is not just another regular season test. It is a measuring stick. The Lions are tough, disciplined, and willing to run up the score without hesitation. To beat them, Baltimore has to match that intensity and keep it for 4 quarters. So here the Ravens sit, balanced between confidence and concern. The talent is there, the schedule is challenging, and the fan base is as passionate as ever. But until the results match the expectations, those same questions will hang over the team. Will Harbaugh's approach finally evolve, or will the Ravens once again find themselves explaining away another blown lead come December? Will Nate Wiggins shake off the injury scare, or will the team be forced to lean on backups during one of the most critical stretches of the season? Will Lamar return to his usual electrifying form, or will soreness and defensive pressure slow him down just enough to tip the scales? Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL community, whispers around the league suggest that Josh Allen, the star quarterback long synonymous with the Buffalo Bills, could be leaving Western New York. Rumors have intensified in recent hours, claiming that Allen has agreed to a 2-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens, a development that, if true, would mark one of the most sensational quarterback switches in recent memory. Sources close to the situation hint that behind closed doors, negotiations moved quickly, with Allen reportedly attracted to Baltimore's storied franchise and a chance to step into a fresh offensive system. The Ravens, known for their aggressive play calling and ability to revitalize quarterback careers, seem to be betting big on Allen, whose cannon arm and dynamic playmaking ability have made him one of the league's most electric talents. Insiders suggest that while the Bills were open to a contract extension, Allen may have been swayed by the prospect of joining a team with a passionate fan base, playoff aspirations, and a coaching staff eager to build around a quarterback of his caliber. Speculation is rampant over what this could mean for Buffalo, where fans are reportedly reeling from the possibility of losing a leader who has defined the franchise for the better part of the last decade. The potential signing has already sparked intense debate among NFL pundits and fans alike. Could Allen replicate his Buffalo magic in Baltimore? How will the Ravens' offensive schemes adapt to accommodate his style? And perhaps most importantly, what does this mean for the quarterback carousel that seems to dominate league headlines every offseason? The buzz is relentless, with social media exploding over every nugget of information or even hint of confirmation. While nothing has been officially announced, the rumor alone is enough to dominate sports chatter, fueling speculation, excitement, and a healthy dose of controversy. If Allen does indeed don a Ravens uniform for the next 2 seasons, it could reshape the AFC landscape entirely, igniting new rivalries and rewriting narratives for both franchises. The NFL world waits with bated breath, eyes glued to every report, every social media leak, and every cryptic tweet. For now, it seems the league may be on the brink of witnessing a blockbuster move that no one saw coming. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.